misinformation as something that might be a pet peeve of yours. You might be worried or concerned as you've heard this. And I want to offer a vantage point. And this really, the reason I thought I'd raise this is because my take on this has a lot to do with empathy for audiences. And that's something that, and it also has to do with a comment on the nature of our media systems and our public information environment that I think is helpful for us to keep in mind. I think that actually we tend to overlook our own vulnerability to misinformation. And I think that we are interested in certain types of stories. We are interested in sharing those stories, and that leaves us all vulnerable. And by pointing out that we're all vulnerable to sharing sensational stories sometimes, that leaves us to be in a better spot in terms of empathy. And empathy, I think, is really the pathway forward here as a remedy to actually addressing the sharing of misinformation. I think if you want to build up trusted relationships between institutions and audiences, you first have to not shame them and to recognize that it was legitimate, the reason, the interest people might have in particular stories, if you're going to then redirect them to credible information. So if you want to move onto the advance to the next part of the slide, I just want to point out two observations about humanity that I think are probably quite keenly apparent during this pandemic, but that hopefully are not controversial. The first is that we all need social connection. We're all suffering from not having it during this pandemic. It's something that we as social beings need to have. We also need to have hope for the future. We struggle when we don't have that. So what I just want to point out is that we like to have reasons to talk to each other, and we need to have hope. And when we don't have either of those, if certain pieces of misinformation actually offer some kind of remedy or salve for that, we're going to see it flourish like wildfire. So, those stories that proliferate in terms of, false information, it's not that they're false, it's that they often have been framed in ways to be sensational and to offer some glimmer of hope when the carefully caveated, scientific report doesn't. And so that's something that we have to keep in mind.